Why video games to teach financial literacy to low-income adults?
Well, Poonam, one thing that we've observed is that often the discussion around financial education is about increasing the supply and making sure that there's more financial education available. But our take was that we really need to focus on increasing the demand, right? Making sure that people understand that they need this stuff and seek it out. And one of the great advantages of video games is that people understand them to be inherently fun. And so we are, in a sense, leading with the dessert, with the chocolate, and it sits atop the broccoli, which would be the part that's good for you, that you learn from. So video games achieve that combination of a good chunk of chocolate covered in some broccoli.
What is the potential reach of video games compared to more traditional forms of financial education?
Well, the great advantage of a video game that's technology-based is that the marginal cost to reach an extra person is basically nothing. So that creates a lot of opportunity. What we found in the 6 months we've had a special website up to distribute the games we've built, about 90,000 people have come to play those games. So that's one indication. So we think there's a lot of potential to get them out far and wide. The key there is to partner with the right organizations and channels who can help you spread the word about the games you have to interested populations.
You've answered some of this question I'm going to ask you next already, but maybe there are some other aspects that you want to touch on. What are the ways in which you make the games accessible to target audiences?
Right. So this is as we just said. We have built a dedicated, we call it a portal, financial entertainment portal, designed to make it really easy for partners we work with to get the games out to their stakeholders, be those employers who want to offer the games to their employees, or community-based organizations that wish to offer them to their clients, or financial institutions or financial service firms that want to offer the games to their customers, or the armed services that wants to offer them to service members. And once the site is customized to the particular partner and channel, then the task simply becomes getting the word out through whatever means, newsletters, meetings, testimonials to those stakeholders.
Awesome. What are some other non-game ways underserved consumers learn about financial literacy?
Well, I think maybe the question we want to ask is what factors influence these consumers' choices about what to do with their money? And the first one that comes to mind is all of the commercial pressure to spend and choose to use your financial resources in that way. So that, in a sense, is the competition. If we narrow it down and look at people or parties or institutions that are trying to help people make good choices, the primary alternative would be something more high touch, the proverbial church basement where maybe there's a class that's offered. In some cases it can be employers or other stakeholders who are interested. But the key distinction there is that those efforts are typically expensive and oftentimes very hard to get people to take up the offer. So the real advantage of the games comes in with that there isn't a lot of cost to reach that extra person, and we can lead with something that people find interesting and attractive and fun and intriguing, so they'll come and check it out.
Right. Speaking of high touch, how often do they need to play the game to get the basic knowledge of financial literacy?
Yeah, so of course every person is different and arrives with a different level of baseline knowledge and understanding. But in our development process, where we have gone really out of our way to make sure we check in with our target customer, so we do that in a very formal way where we invite panels of target game players in, and they actually interact with the product in the stage of development it's at for a couple hours. We found that 30 to 90 minutes of play is a typical dose, if you will. In our distribution testing work, we found that people who visit our website spend 20 minutes on the page where the game is. So that's an incredibly long time on the internet. So we think that's a good range to shoot for. And of course, we're delighted if people choose to come back, as they're very apt to do.
So how do you evaluate whether that was a sufficient amount of time for them to actually learn what they need to know about financial literacy?
Well, we have done in our development process testing immediately after gameplay, where we compare the results to questions that the players answered before gameplay. So we can measure the impact on people's self-reported knowledge and self-confidence and understanding. And that's not the full answer to your question. To be able to really know what the effective dose is, we need longer-term, more rigorous study, which is something we're committed to doing. But the other thing that's important to keep in mind is that people will come and take as much as they want. And that's, again, gets us back to one of the important pieces of using games, is that if this is interesting and fun and not threatening, which so often financial education can be, we think, and we have seen, that they will come back and play again. So that's a long way of saying we don't know exactly what the right dose is yet, but we're committed to figuring that out.
Now, I should probably know this, but can they pick up where they left off, or do they have to start from scratch every time they go to your game site?
Well, that's a great question, and there are two answers. You can register on the site, so you will be you're able to come back, and the site will know who you are. And about 10% of our visitors have chosen to do that. We've learned that it is an important feature that someone can interrupt gameplay and come back. We haven't yet been able to build that into all of our titles, but we've now understood that's a feature we want to be sure to have in future releases.
Great. Now, how do your games represent the tough trade-offs that consumers have to face in real life? For example, gain now versus gain later, or the pressures of impressing their friends.
Simulation feels connected enough to people's real experience that they do make that connection, but also detached enough that it's fun and light, and as we've said, non-threatening, and encourages people to dive in and enjoy it. And our way to try and hit that right balance has been through this very deliberate development process, where we don't build the entire product and then heave it over the wall and hope that it worked out. We have a very regimented process of checking in with a panel of real target customers. So that's the methodology. And the second part is it is a simulation. So at the heart of that are the very trade-offs that exist in the real world. They come wrapped in a motif and in an experience that's fun, but after somebody has spent the time to play the game, they understand what that essential trade-off is. So that trade-off then is something that's familiar from their real-life experience, and we believe that the transfer is made.
What do you do to encourage consumers who have played the game to recommend it to their friends?
Sure. Well, there are a couple pieces of that. One of the great advantages of a game experience is that it can be social. So far, we have not been able to build all the ways that we would like to do that, but there's a lot of evidence now, and if you will, sort of a pathway to follow through the experience of games like Farmville, which are inherently based in social media and designed to be broadcast, really, to your virtual friends. So that's a very promising strategy. But the other piece is that our distribution approach is built through channels where people are parts of communities. So we may not necessarily think of it that way, but our workplace is a community, and whether we intend it or not, if we have an experience and we talk about it to a colleague, then we are in effect spreading in that network. And so that's true in all the distribution channels that we have worked in.
This is a fantastic, very, very creative, and I have to say innovative way of marketing financial literacy, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much.